Welcome everyone to Love and Pod, a weekly Trigun Stampede podcast. I am your host, Lady Zeon the Double Fang, and with me is my co-host, Kai the non-binary Typhoon.
Hey, I'm Kai Keda. I run Kai Keda Analysis. I'm a longtime Trigun fan, really excited to get to watch and talk about this anime.
So for those who are new to Trigun, we are diehard fans of what have come before. And when I heard that there was going to be a new Trigun anime, I'm like, oh my god, I'm so excited. Like, I love the manga. Am I finally gonna get to see the manga fully adapted on screen? No, I'm not getting that at all. This is a complete reimagining, and I'm coming in from the perspective of I have watched the anime. I watched it back in the long ago. Had a lot of fond nostalgic memories for it. I read the manga. Ended up liking the manga even more. And then Kai, you are also a long time, or not long time, but you are also a big fan of Trigun.
Yeah, so it was actually I'd been a big fan of it since around high school, so around 2009 to 2010 ish. All the way up until around 2021, it would be my one answer for what's your favorite anime of all time. Even though it wasn't until around 2019 and 2020 that I would say properly fandom ended. So nobody knew that it was my favorite anime of all time. And the only reason it's not anymore is because Shirobako came to my life, and that's an anime about making anime. It's kind of hard to top that.
So yeah, had you seen, because I'm the one that approached you for this podcast, and were you had you seen any of the ads and trailers for this going into it, or or was this kind of fresh to you, coming in?
I did, but I wasn't really that hyped about it from what I had been seeing. It was very much so that's interesting. Because I was a part of the Trigun Reanimate project where we reanimated the opening.
Mm-hmm.
And in that, we had a whole note to Night Towel that was there. We didn't expect anybody to see, but we put it of hey, we would love it if, you guys brought the anime back and adapted the manga. That would be awesome. And then, just a few years later, we get Trigun Stampede announcement. So that server was kind of blowing up and exploding with it. So I had seen one of the trailers. I think there was only the one teaser. I don't know actually. But yeah, it was kind of something that was there and was kind of on my radar, but I wasn't paying too much attention to. So when you approached me about the podcast, I was like, "Oh yeah, that's a thing." And I looked up, when is that first episode? Oh, it's tomorrow.
Yeah, that for those curious, that is how short notice this podcast is that first off, I was like, oh, we're making a new anime. Is it gonna be like the manga? Is it gonna follow the manga? And it's gonna be CG. Uh-oh. But it's gonna be by the people who made Beastars and Lands of the Lustrous. So I'm like, oh, okay. The good CG anime people. Alright. And then the first trailer drops and I'm like, what'd they do to Vash?
Yeah,
What's happening? What's going on? And
okay.
I so you know I'm like, okay, I'm a TMNT fan. I'm used to watching my franchises getting rebooted and remixed and whatever. I would really like a faithful adaptation of the manga one day in the far-flung future, but if that's not what I'm getting, as more Trigun and new takes on Trigun, I am still open to. So I had this idea. I'm like, wait, I just redid all this Trigun watching and reading. I'm like, I should just do a damn podcast. And I was like, oh, I should ask Kai to be in this podcast. And here you are, listening to this podcast.
Yeah, I remember you a while back, you seeing me say something about Trigun on Twitter. I don't even know what it was. And your reply was like, oh, you're reading Trigun, or you watch Trigun. I think it was when I was reading the manga, because the people in the
Mm-hmm.
Trigun Discord had finally convinced me to read it. And you're like, oh, you're reading Trigun. And I was like, oh yeah, I've always been a fan of Trigun. But that was another case of the yeah, it's just kind of been there, and I never really talked about it before.
It's yeah, it's my favorite thing on the planet. I just haven't mentioned it until now.
I
It
had
wasn't plot relevant.
I had a whole animation that I had started and never finished, because of course I did, that was centered around how funny I had realized, I had the realization of how ironic it was that I never did a proper fandom hyperfixation of it. It was like, oh yeah, it's the B fandom. Vash is in the B team.
Right? Like where is your, like, 15-hour character analysis on Vash the Stampede and the ethics of pacifism? Like, come on.
Okay, so that is actually being put onto me comparing Sandy from Lego Monkey Kid to Vash. Thank you very much.
Oh,
That's
okay,
all
okay,
over my
okay, okay.
Tumblr. I drew a
Okay,
drawing of it and
so you're just gonna
everything.
take your two fandom obsessions. We're just gonna like crudely stitch this together as a Frankenstein's analysis. Got it.
Yeah, I mean, heck, they put like Johnny Young Bosch as one of the characters of Lego Monkey Kid of Najah, which had me like, hello. So they did
It's
it too.
Vash! Oh my god! So, yeah, now that we got, like, basic introductions out of the way, let's go ahead. Like, we have now seen the first episode. I have watched it twice. I have taken notes. And I'm just going to, for those, I was about to say, for those new to this podcast, it's the first fucking episode. Everyone's new to this podcast. So, for this podcast, the structure will go as such. I will go through and recap the episode. Then we will talk about the episode on its own merits. Like, just purely in a bubble, how good is it as, like, a show, as a piece of, like, animated entertainment? And afterwards, we will then pick it apart like pedantic little fans bitching about it, like as if we were like obnoxious assholes on Twitter, and just complain our hearts out or praise our hearts out as fans of this franchise. So, to summarize the episode, it begins on a cold open. We're in space. We have these spaceships. They're labeled seeds. We have this kid who is named Vash, looking at all these people who are like kind of in a cryo sleep. Cold open, har har. And
Sorry.
We then go to, oh shit, like the ship's breaking down, everything's on fire. There's like another little blonde kid, his name is Nai. There's like a woman who is kind of like, I guess, a motherly figure, as far as like, the episode is showing us, named Rem. She gets them together, puts them on an escape pod, has a teary farewell. Nai is just like, Rem, come with us, and she just kind of closes the thing and says how much joy, these boys have brought to her, and she pulls the lever on the escape pod, sending them out. And
ooh, what you say? Sorry.
Yeah, no, and then we see her getting just engulfed in a ball of fire as they're ejected from the ship, and we get the splash of the title card. Then we hard cut to two reporters, Roberto and Meryl. Roberto is this old alcoholic, surly douche who's just really jaded, very condescending to Meryl, who's like the newbie. Meryl is quick to talk about how, like, she's a 23-year-old university graduate, and like being a reporter has always been her passion, and that she's basically just going to like, take the reporting world by storm. Very much a plucky, adventurous, go-getter, Lois Lane waifu. Then we get like some exposition about the planet, and Meryl like is asking if this humanoid Typhoon that they are looking for, because they are looking for someone named the humanoid Typhoon who's like the most wanted man on the planet. And he's just like, oh, you've never heard the humanoid Typhoon, blah, blah, blah. And Meryl's talking about getting her big scoop. And as they're walking through the desert, they stumble across some dead bodies, but one of them isn't dead. It's a guy in a long red trench coat, hanging upside down. Buzzards are picking at him. And they find him, they untie him. They assume he was strung up by the Badlands gang, who we do not see at all in this episode, but, world building. They talk to the mysterious fella. They note that he has a prosthetic arm that Roberto refers to as lost technology. Then the military police show up, with a wanted poster for Vash the Stampede, the humanoid typhoon, the most wanted man, and Meryl is just like, oh yeah, he went that away, pointing them in the completely wrong direction. Meryl then lassos Vash, who is the person that they had saved, and they're like, well, I'm gonna get my scoop, I'm gonna get my interview, and also, like, as reporters, it is our job, to, like, clear his name in case he has been falsely accused.
I was gonna say, which, like, yeah, sure, okay. I mean, there's some truth to that, but also, are there not, like, lawyers and stuff around? Isn't
Yeah,
that their
no, like,
job?
I was very confused by that statement of, like, it's our job. It's just like, do you guys not have a legal system? Like, I
I
know
get
this
the
is, like, very
feeling.
cowboy-y,
Yeah.
but damn.
I get the feeling because there are a lot of cases that you see of people saying like, "Oh yeah, reporters if they know something," or you see a lot of stories and a lot of stuff where like reporters get in and they find out something the lawyers and the judges and the police never did or something. But the idea of Meryl being like, "Oh yeah, this is our job," I'm like, a lot of the times it just kind of happens like because you're in the right place at the right time, not so much it's specifically your job. That's just my feelings on like that. It's still like I get it
Yeah.
though.
So Vash is just like, okay, you can have your interview, but let's do it at a diner. And Meryl's just like, there's a diner? So she ropes him into town, and they go to a place called Genora Rock. They go into a tavern, and uh, everyone there knows Vash. Apparently, Vash has saved this town once before, and then they quickly find out that their water plant has been down. They've had to import water from other towns, so no one has clean water. It's all filthy. So Vash goes to inspect their plant. Then we get some very awkward exposition from Meryl. Honestly, a lot of the exposition in this episode is
Yeah.
awkwardly
I
delivered,
have a
and
whole
I will
paragraph
definitely...
in my notes about that.
Okay, good. We both noticed that's like, man, that's
Little info
okay. Thank you
dumpy.
for letting me know this thing. Um, so yeah, Meryl gives exposition about how like plants are these like lost technology from the spacefaring era before they crash land on this planet, and they are the thing that helps them live and sustain life on this harsh desert planet. Vash goes and looks at the plants. One of them is red. It's the one that is malfunctioned, and Vash is like, it's dying.
And he's like
And
really
Vash
freaked out
seems,
about it. Yeah.
yeah, like Vash seems legitimately like kind of terrified by the concept of this thing dying, and what it could mean. Before we get any kind of explanation on that, the military police show up to arrest Vash. They're like, hey, his warrant for his arrest, the reward, 6 million double dollars for his reward, and like that'll totally pay for like a new plant for your town. It's like, see, like they don't give a shit about your life. Then Roberto, I guess, kind of tricks the military police, like, I'm gonna have to like write an article about how you guys are a bunch of big old pussies because like you're just like taking this guy, like you're not even gonna give him a fair fair shot. Which, what?
Yeah, because that works so well. I don't know. This is also coming
It's
from
just
Japan.
like, could you imagine walking up to a cop and be like, I'm gonna write an article about how you're a big old pussy. You should fist fight this guy. Like,
that'll obviously fix everything. Nothing could go wrong.
yeah, so like they go to have like I guess a gentlemanly duel where I guess Vash is just going to kill a member of law enforcement if he won the duel, which I don't even know how that works. It's like, what happens? Like, they like if things went the way like, a duel would typically go, like is Vash going to like bust a cap in this military policeman, and then it's just like, well, that happens then. He's still wanted.
Absolutely no consequences whatsoever.
In fact, now he just added an extra charge because he assaulted an officer. So whatever. The cop though goes and chucks his gun in the air, like, and Vash is like, oh, thank goodness we're not gonna duel. Then he pulls out like a fucking like mini pod rocket launcher thing and launches like a bunch of scatter rockets like into the air that like burst into like small little missiles that are coming down and they're falling, and Vash is just like, oh shit, and everyone in the area is freaking the fuck out. the fucking military policeman is just like what, you thought I was gonna fucking like have a duel with you? Fuck that noise. And it's just like, bro, you just fired a bunch of fucking mini rockets into the air. What is your goal here?
That guy was nuts, though.
Like,
he was just crazy.
I mean, I know cops have a history of excessive violence, but like, bro, you're gonna blow your own self up.
Yeah, that's the part that confused. Like, that guy just was absolutely nuts. The way he was laughing and everything was very.
It's just
crazy.
like maniacal laughter cop, and it's just like, okay. So then Vash points his gun up in the air and like pulls the trigger. Oh fuck, he's out of ammo. I don't know how he wasn't out of ammo, or that he didn't have ammo on him at all. So he starts freaking out, asking everybody for like a .22 caliber bullet. Meryl's just like, why isn't anybody helping him? Roberto is just like lecturing her on like, bravery. It's just like, coward is a word of privilege, and like, you're gonna get yourself fucking killed. Like, you're not long for this world, just like this guy in this dog-eat-dog world. And
Roberto's
Rosa,
the reason they're in this mess anyways.
Yeah, no, like, Roberto's the one who fucking, like, oh man, I got some shit to say. So, anyhow, Rosa, the bartender, who is, like, super friendly towards Vash, is just like, here's a bullet. One bullet. And Meryl comes and runs out and just, with the most perfect throw ever, like, that woman just Olympic tosses this bullet all the way up a mountain, like, above Vash's head. And Vash goes to catch it, and the military police officer fires the bullet out of the air, sending it away. Vash has to now comically run after it, gets the bullet, puts it in the chamber, goes to fire it. The officer shoots his gun to the side and keeps him from firing upward. And which is such a I have so much to fucking say about this. I'm trying to keep it all in because there's so much like stupid that's being presented as cool happening at once, and I have so much to unpack.
That officer, just his motivations confuse me, and I'll leave it at that. I
have no fucking clue. So like he goes and confronts Vash in like almost like a fist fight, like fucking like it's goddamn WrestleMania. Fucking Vash grabs his arm and like fucking hip tosses his ass onto the goddamn ground. Then he takes his mechanical arm, crushes it into the ground, pulls out a rock, throws it upward, fires a bullet into the rock, causing the rock to splinter and hit all of the rockets, exploding them in midair. And then afterwards, Vash is like trying to play dumb. It's like, boy, I sure am a lucky duck. Like, I didn't think one bullet was gonna be able to pull that off. And Meryl's just kind of looking at him like, you are so full of fucking shit right now.
Bullshit.
Like,
why the fuck are you lying?
And then Roberto was just like, so who are you afraid of? And Vash is just like, huh? And it's just like, you were not afraid at all from those military police, but you freaked the fuck out when you saw that dying plant. What's coming? What are you afraid of? So then we get a flashback to all the way back from the beginning, now on this planet, dead or no man's land, and Vash is like, little kid Vash is freaking out. Nye is like maniacally laughing about how like, he's killed them all and blah blah blah, and like Vash is his accomplice. And then it cuts back and he's just like, I have a brother named Knives. Have you ever heard of Millions Knives? And then we hard cut to what we could assume is his brother, older Knives, playing the piano dramatically and saying, this time I will eliminate all of them. End of episode.
I've got thoughts.
Okay, so okay.
It seems like we both have thoughts.
Yeah, okay, so So honestly, like, I feel like talking about this on its own merits is so super fucking easy because I have so much to say just on, like, how this episode functions as an episode.
I have
But,
a yeah, I have a few things. It's hard for me because it's hard to like not think in the sense of like, oh, they did this thing that doesn't work, but like the original anime did that better, and so it's hard to not think of it and try to get out of that.
yeah.
But
Yeah, I'm
yeah,
definitely trying to compartmentalize this as, like, and definitely the other, like, both the manga had a much better first chapter and the anime had a much better first episode, but, like, I still think this is pretty easy to compartmentalize for
mm,
me at least. So let's start with that cold open. Um, I don't understand why Rem didn't get in the escape pod with them right out of the gate. Like, it's just like you have Knives being like, "Come with us, Rem," and she's just like looking all teary eyed, and she's like, she closes the door and she pulls the like lever to eject them, and it's just like, does she have to be outside to eject it? Who the fuck designs an escape pod that you have to eject from the
that's a
outside?
very good point. Why is that even an option? I didn't even think of that.
What? Because, like, honestly, no, it's a bad option too. Because, like, if you think about it, it's just
Somebody always has to be the sacrifice.
it's like, yeah, no, it's just like, okay, like, you get to be the martyr, everyone else gets to escape. It's just, what? What?
I can understand like as a design, like if we're thinking like the whole technology of it and everything, I can understand the concept of like if there's a case like having it as an option as well as having an option to get at like if there's both there. I can see like where
Yeah.
that would like come to mind of like, oh yeah, it's like in case of something or whatever, you want to make sure there's
Yeah,
no
yeah,
way
like
your
an
escape
emergency
pod.
release hatch
Yeah, like from
latch.
the outside, and there's also one on the inside, you know? Like I can see that, and so that is a possibility, but it does
Like,
like
because I'm trying to think of it just like, what is her rationale in this moment? Like, because she gives this teary farewell about how much these kids mean to her, and then she ejects them, and then they get to like watch her get engulfed in a fireball. So it's not even like she got to accomplish anything. Like after she launched them, she died immediately after.
yeah, if it's like the
So
idea if the idea was that like, oh, she has something she needs to do from inside or something like that, like at
yeah,
least giving it more time before it blows up, I think would be better for that than just because if the flames are that close to you, if you're that close to it all exploding, then what is the goal of you staying there for that long? You
yeah,
know?
I don't like. I have no clue. Hopefully, a later episode will contextualize this. Like, hopefully this is just like the first episode. So it's like, it's kind of setting up a bit of a mystery, maybe. But honestly, like, this series doesn't seem very interested in mysteries. It's just like laying all of its cards on the table immediately. So after the, hard cut to, I guess what we can call present day, and we get Roberto and Meryl. God, I hate this fucking dynamic. I hate like smug older guy who knows the ropes and he's cynical, but he's also just happens to kind of be right about stuff. And you have Meryl who's like the upstart rookie, and she like, and
Really,
here's the thing,
really playing into the naivety versus like old and weary. And then
experience. Yeah.
I'm kind of weary of this dynamic and a lot of stuff. And the kind of
Yeah.
character that Meryl has here is like, it's not bad in and of its own, but I don't think, but it's also like, I'm kind of tired of seeing the like super plucky and everything is good and I'm gonna like make sure everybody is good and oh my god, people are bad. You know, like I'm kind of I don't know.
It's
There's
it's a it's a very well worn trope, and it's just like, oh, okay.
yeah, that's
So
the way
like
to
this
put it.
this,
A
this
well-worn
dynamic,
trope.
yeah, and honestly, like it does feel a little sexist that like you keep having this older dude, and I guess maybe like part of it is to like show that like, well, she's not actually like dumb, like he's giving her credit, because honestly, like the episode does go out of its way to like
They tell us like twice that she like graduated from this nice college. I think they only say it twice. It might have been 3 times that they brought it up.
yeah,
So they really wanted to make the point of like she's not stupid. She's well learned. She knows things.
yeah. But here's the thing though, like um so like it kind of like proves Roberto wrong, but like it also just feels like it's just there for exposition, like where he just kind of lectures her about like no man's land and like the harsh planet that they live on. It's like, bitch, she's 23 and she lives here. She
Yeah.
knows.
It's all very, the whole episode felt very info dumpy, and I know I had that like in my
Yeah,
notes of like it was just one info dump conversation after another. And it's a very
yeah.
common problem in a lot of serialized stories that like their first
It's
episode is like, here's all the information about the world. And funnily enough, those are the things that I usually can't really get into because they throw all this information at me all at once and I can't remember it. And then
yeah,
like 7 episodes later they bring up something again that they brought up in the first episode along with 12 other things, and I'm expected to
right.
remember what the context of it is, and I really don't because it was too
But
much
yeah,
all at once.
because and it's very much like, well, as you already know, exposition dump. Like it's things that's like, well, wait, why is
Nobody
this
talks like
exposition?
that.
Because it's like this exposition isn't here for the characters; it's here for the audience. Because Meryl knows this shit. She knows, um, she knows like what this planet is like, and then he goes, "What? You don't know about the humanoid typhoon?" It's just like, well, no, she knows who the humanoid typhoon is, but
She just doesn't
like
really believe
she
it.
just doesn't believe all the rumors about him,
Mm.
and it's just
There are
and
ways.
then
There's a lot of shows and stuff, and there are ways to have that sort of like characters having conversation about stuff going that they all know, and there's no reason why none of them shouldn't know it. There's ways to bring that up naturally in conversation without like having it so like I'm gonna explicitly tell you a thing that I am also saying you already know anyways. Like there's better ways to write
right.
that dialogue.
So they're looking for this Vash the Stampede, and they just stumble upon him. Like it's not even like they go like, oh, he's in this town. We're gonna go to this town, and then they meet up with him. Like it's just they just happen to find some guy hanging out in the fucking desert, literally
Yeah,
hanging,
conveniently,
and
right when they were talking about him too.
yeah, and it's just like that just feels kind of clumsy and lazy. I did like the little touch of him wearing the Seeds jacket. So it's just like, his red jacket that he's wearing has the patch for like the Seeds organization. So like, oh, like even if you don't immediately like pick up on like, oh, this is the kid from the beginning, like you also have this little indicator that like, oh, like he has a connection, like he was on that ship.
I know I did really like how I do really like Vash in this too. I think at some points he gets kind of silly, but like a little too
Yeah,
silly. But even then, like I know in the big action scene there was like a point where he was like literally crying, and it didn't feel like playing it up to make a point. It felt like he really was just like breaking down right there, and I'm like, okay, this is getting a little much.
yeah, no, like there was a bit of a like, okay, so like for the most of this episode, like I don't really have a whole lot to say for like the middle portion of this, like other than like the big awkward exposition. Meryl, do you know what a plant is? It's like, yeah, bro, it's the fucking. That's like asking. It's like, do you know what like the fucking electric company is? Do you know what a gas station is? It's like, yeah, bro, she fucking lives on this goddamn planet. Once again, she's 20 fucking 3.
Yeah,
She
like
goddamn knows.
kindergarten, like I work as a substitute teacher. Kindergartners know what electricity is. They don't know all the ins and outs,
Right.
but they understand the concept of there's a place you can go to where you can see where they are generating electricity. Even if they don't know it by
Yeah.
those words, they still understand that concept. So the idea of a
Yeah.
23-year-old who's, again, they make a huge point about her being very learned and very well educated. Super basic thing, Like,
Mhm.
it's weird. It's awkward. The exposition's really
Yeah,
awkward.
I will say one moment I really, really liked was when they were at the tavern, and it's just like, you know, depending on, like, what your relationship with Vash is, we might have to kick your ass. And then Vash is just like, whoa, they're friends. It's just like, then what's with the rope? And he just kind of slips out of it. He goes, what rope?
I literally wrote
Like,
that in my notes too. Of like, yeah, that's the exact sort of stuff I love Vash for.
that
Is
is
like,
that is such a good little character moment. It's a tiny little thing where it's just like you get this feeling of something so simple isn't gonna stop this guy. Like
yeah,
he's very just calm and relaxed. He will kind of go with the motion. He's very non-confrontational, and the moment he's in an environment where like something bad could happen to other people, he completely defuses it by going, "Look, no, everything's fine." And because they're in an environment where everyone's comfortable with him, the reporters now have to be comfortable with Vash. So it's a that is an expertly written like little moment. It's like this little like 30-second bit in this episode that I feel like this chef's kiss. Like that
yeah.
was that both just as like as a piece of media and also like as a fan of Trigun. Like that was they
Yeah.
really nailed that.
It shows that he has the skill that a rope like that, he could have gotten out of it the whole time. Yeah, because there was
Mhm.
nothing different between those situations of how he's suddenly able to get out of it now, but it was like so quick and instant. So it's like
Mhm.
he was going along with it because like he said, he was being non-confrontational and he was like these people just like, are just they're just being cautious or whatever and
Yeah.
they want to
It
go to the
it does
diner
make
of
me
people who I know already like me, so it's fine,
yeah.
I'll go along with it.
Okay, so like the one thing that gets me is just like how is he hanging upside down? Like why didn't he slip out of those ropes? Like was he actually in danger or could he have just gotten out at any point?
Oh, right, and it's not like it was like a super recent thing because the two other bodies were like still there and well like
Dead,
that
yeah.
well long like dead, so that does
So
raise
so
the
so he had
question,
been there
why is
for
he
a
there?
bit.
Yeah, that
So yeah, hopefully a later episode will fill that in. But that once again kind of just felt like lazy writing where it's just like, well, we need to like introduce him. Oh, we'll just have this little comedic bit where he's hanging upside down without really thinking about the logic behind that. Like you're literally going to have him slip out of a rope later in this episode, but also have him introduced hanging upside down and just being stuck there and needing other people to save him.
yeah.
It's a really weird little bit. Like it's like, guys, you gotta have to pick
I
one.
feel like there's a lot of like of like writers not really considering character motivation as far as they should. Because again, that stuff
Yeah,
with like the military police officer was like, why?
yeah,
Why?
no,
What do you
yeah, no.
gain
Okay, so
from
so so yeah,
any of
let's
this?
yeah. What? Why are you doing this duel? Why the mini rocket thing? Like you're gonna fucking destroy like half this fucking town for like what purpose?
If he was
Like
like if he was just a random oh gosh, I can't think of the words, but a random outlaw, like I can see an outlaw like I've got nothing to lose, I'm just going to go crazy. But this is a
yeah,
military police officer who has the job of get Vash, get the humanoid Typhoon and get him
yeah.
alive because the other military officers did as well, like bring that up like, what are you doing, we need him alive, like, okay, seriously, what are your motivations? Why are you suddenly killing
Yeah.
everybody here?
Yeah, no, I have no fucking clue. Like, I have no goddamn clue because just like you can't get the rewards if he's like in pieces. And also, okay, so I have so much to say about this because one, like, I feel like there's a lot of artificial tension because like he fires these rockets into the air. I don't know why the hell he's firing these rockets, but like they're coming down like super
Yeah, I
slow.
was thinking that too. Like,
Like,
wow, these are taking a while. I didn't think they were that high up, but apparently they're close enough that Bash was able to throw a rock really close to them. So why are they falling
yeah.
so slow? I don't.
I don't, yeah, I really couldn't figure out that, like, the timing on it. This is like one of those things that, like, maybe in manga, it would have worked because, the pacing in manga is whatever you're reading.
Yeah.
Um, but here it's just like we're feeling the passage of time in motion because it's an anime. And this just doesn't work. And for the record, like, even though I bring up manga as an example where something like this would work, this is not something in the manga. There's nothing like this in the manga at all.
Yeah, there's like
This is whole cloth made up for this show.
I feel like this whole episode feels a lot like a first draft that didn't get the time in the editing room that it needed. It's a common like trick when you're writing. If you get stuck when you're writing a scene, there's like one in specifically that's like just have someone kick down the door with a gun. You know, just like in any scene, you know, you can, if you're really stuck and you've got that bad of like writer's block on this scene, do something crazy like that and see where it goes, and then go back and edit it. And that feels like to make it flow better. And that feels like something like the military officer throwing his gun away and then suddenly firing, something like that is like, feels like something like that, where it's like, oh, now he's got this big old cluster bomb thing, you know, which again is a way to get you out of a writing block, but you need to go back and edit it to make it flow better and make it make more sense.
Yeah, because just like, this never should have been, like literally you would establish that there's like the Badland Gang. You use this Badland Gang that you have name dropped. Like, you know, a bunch of fucking criminals, like, you know, who care not at all about, like, property damage would have made so much more sense.
And before that, military police isn't actually military police, and they're the Badland Gang, and they stole stuff from the military police.
Yeah, anything.
You know what? That's something that could possibly be revealed in a later episode, and I'm trying to give this anime, like, going in, like, it's the first episode. There's a lot of things that, like, for all we know, like, there is a possibility that, like, a few episodes down the line, we're going to go, oh, you know. So it's like, I want to give that benefit of the doubt that something like that could be the case and would make a lot of those actions make a lot more sense. But because, again, like I even said earlier with the officer being like freaking batshit crazy, if it was an outlaw, I'd believe it more, because usually they're very like batshit crazy and devoid of like, usually, especially in like Westerns, that's the idea, is that they don't really have very big like empathy for other people and stuff, you know? So that's a possibility, but I'm not going to like give them credit for something they didn't do, but I'm giving the benefit of the doubt that that's possible.
Yeah, like I'm going to approach that a bit more openly. Something I'm not going to approach more openly, though, is like, okay, so Vash doesn't have a gun, or he doesn't have any bullets. The cluster bombs are coming down slow as hell. At this point, the entire town could have fucking evacuated, whatever. But, like, Vash is having this big panic freak out, and the whole time, I'm just like, bro, that guy threw his gun away.
Yeah, I was thinking that too. I kept expecting
use his gun!
I kept expecting him to go for it, but then eventually, like, the guy has his gun again, I think, because, like, that's how he shot that one. Like, when did he pick it up? When did... Wait.
Yeah.
When did he get it back? Did y'all forget that he threw it away? And, like, we know Vash is very skilled because we saw him get out of that rope super quick and everything. And as much of a gag as that is, that's still, like, yeah, he's really quick. You know, I could believe that he could quickly grab that gun and the bullets out of it. This scene is trying to be tense and not tense at the same time. I'm getting, like, tonal whiplash here.
Yeah, it's trying to be silly. And then, like, you know, Meryl just being like, why isn't anybody helping him? It's just like, Meryl, why do you assume someone has the exact caliber of bullet that he needs? Shit, why does the tavern lady have? Why does the tavern lady have the caliber of bullet that he needs? Why does she only have one? Whatever.
Yeah, her only having one is kind of bizarre to me, but it's like, I can believe with like this world, like it being a Western style, I can believe that there's like ammo hiding around, and there's a lot of, I guess, contrivance is the word. There's a lot of stuff that's like just there because, well, someone has to give him the bullet, you know? And
it's like, you know, we need to have the tense scene where he doesn't have bullets. Well, that guy threw his gun on the ground. Don't worry about the gun back. Vash isn't using that gun for some undisclosed reason. Okay, well, he needs a bullet. Well, someone needs to give him a bullet, so it needs to be Meryl. Well, you know, we established that the town was kind of betraying Vash, or the military police officer implied that the bar tavern lady Rosa was betraying him for money. So it's like she gives Meryl the bullet to give to Vash, and then like Meryl even says like, it's from Rosa, and it's just like, I guess to like, you know, the catharsis that Vash knows that like he wasn't betrayed.
I mean, there's a possibility that that gun that the guy had, that the military officer had, wasn't like didn't have the right type of bullets. I guess, even though it looks very
doesn't even need the right
similar.
type. I
But
just
it's
mean
like they
why
didn't.
can't he just fire the gun?
Crap! There goes my thing. Like,
Yeah, no,
there
like
goes.
I was just thinking, like I
Right.
was just thinking like Vash wasn't gonna fire his gun. And like maybe like honestly like I had this whole thought like, oh, he's gonna like see the gun, like maybe military officer sees it, goes, oh shit, I threw my gun in, and they both run at it. Vash just takes his gun, throws it, hits the fucker in the face, grabs the officer's gun, and then fires it into the air instead.
But Meryl has to help save the day. Don't you get it?
It's girl power.
God.
You gotta do it for the feminisms. Oh god. So, okay. And also, I guess, Meryl needs to, like, prove Roberto wrong. That, like, her mentality of helping people is actually good. Because we gotta put the grumpy old... our feminist icon has to put the grumpy old guy in his place. But whatever. So anyhow, like, okay, I'm going to talk. I can't believe I'm going to say this in the context of a Trigun podcast. I need to talk about power scaling. Okay. Oh god, I don't even like talking about this in shonen anime, and here I am about to fucking talk about it.
You get to talk about power scaling, and then I get to talk about animation. How about that?
Okay, so, so Meryl chucks a bullet like a football field's like length in height up a fucking mountain up to a cliff where Vash is. It's like, what? Like, how strong is she? Like, that was literally like distracting from me because like I thought like this gunman's supposed to be superhuman, and she just chucks it all the way up there, and I'm like, okay, like a little reality breaking for me, but not a huge deal. Not a big, it's not gonna ruin it for me.
Mm-hmm.
But then like the MP fires the bullet out of the air.
That is like a Vash move. There's something superhuman about this person.
Yeah, that's like superhuman like marksmanship. And I'm just thinking, well, one, I'm surprised that bullet didn't shatter the other bullet or damage it, but whatever. Like, the bullet gets fired out of the air, and I'm just like, what the fuck? Because, like, when it happened, I was so surprised. Like, and, like, what is this MP, like, worried about? It's a single bullet. Like how skilled does he really think Vash is? And if that's the case, just fucking shoot Vash!
Is that level of marksmanship, is that level, like, the average around there or something? Like, is everyone in which case,
yeah,
why is Vash special?
Yeah, so like if literally the very first jobber we see is pulling off these kind of trick shots, it literally like makes me wonder. I'm like, what's special about the super special gunman now? Like, is this character, and maybe I'm coming in with my own preconceptions of what Vash the Stampede is supposed to be, and maybe they're not gonna make him a super skilled like gunman, which would be really weird. I was so surprised when he like breaks the ground and chucks a rock into the sky, and that I could totally buy because like he's using his cyborg arm, he's this super skilled superhuman, whatever, and he fires that, and then like the fucking
chain reaction
rock shatters and hits all of them, and I'm like, okay, so like, is that super impressive? Because, and yeah, no, like, all of that entire segment, I was just so, like, I think I was supposed to find this cool, but I'm just very confused.
I recognize that it was, like, an impressive shot, but especially after, like, specifically the, like, Meryl throwing that bullet so far, and, like, all that other stuff. It was like, yeah, that's impressive, but also not any more impressive than everything else I've seen in this episode already.
Yeah, and also, like that honestly felt more like dumb luck, because he, like, fired a bullet, and, like, just how the rock shatters, and, like, just, like, it splinters and hits, like, all the little things, and it blows them up in midair, and I'm like,
It's like
Like, honestly, I didn't think that was very cool.
yeah, and the rock itself has to be a very specific like size and shape to make that happen as well. And yeah, he didn't sit there and chisel the rock into a specific shape so that he'd be able to do it, or he didn't pick up a specific like rock that he saw that he knew he could make work by hitting it. No, it was just so much random luck to make that work.
Yeah, like that whole segment, that big finale, like the set piece like moment of that episode just felt, and then also that cop like fucking shoots the very tip of Vash's gun, tilting his shot. So it's just like, which is like another like pretty impressive shot. Also, why not just shoot Vash? I
He,
don't know why you're not just shooting the
he's
fucking
already
criminal.
he's already like setting everybody in that town up to die, including himself most likely. That's my understanding. It's like
Yeah.
why not? Why aren't you just
I
shooting
don't
Vash? What's stopping
Yeah,
you?
I have no clue what the motive, like I have no clue what the motivation is. I have no clue like the perception of tension in time. It just, everything just feels so artificially strained to have Vash do this really cool thing, but then like you're seeing all these kind of other superhuman things, and I'm like, I don't know what I'm supposed to be impressed by
Yeah,
anymore.
I'm gonna stand by. It feels very first draft. It really feels
Yeah,
very
no,
first
I
draft.
totally agree with you. Like this first episode has that kind of first draft sickness, this kind of that first episode growing pains where it's just like we're going to put our own stamp on this. But then they didn't really think about it's like, okay, well these are all the things we need to establish in this episode because it is Trigun, and they didn't really think about like how to make the pieces work and how
Mm.
they introduce, because like I don't inherently have a problem with them.
And I had like, for what it's worth, I had fun. I had that thought while I was watching it too. Like, I had fun watching the episode. And I started to watch it a second time, but I kind of like spaced out. So it was like, yeah, I had fun, but it wasn't like super hype excited. But again, it is just the first episode. It's not like the whole anime is going to be like that. But it's like, I don't think it's terrible and awful and disgusting. It was okay, I guess.
All right, so the animation, you had things to say about it?
Yeah, I'm gonna throw out there the context of like I went to school for animation for a while, and I have been studying animation for very, very, very long time, and I'm very passionate about it. So throwing that out there, for the like credentials, I guess, or whatever, I guess is the word. But I'm not against the idea of this style of CG animation in its own right. It doesn't appeal to me. I know, like, I've had people ask me, what did you think of the Dragon Ball movie that came out? And I'm like, oh, I still haven't watched it. And part of that is like, it's not a conscious avoiding it thing. It's I just don't care. And whenever I see clips of it, I'm like, and it's kind of the same with
Mhm.
this. I think that's why when like the teaser trailer dropped out, I was like, I don't know if I'm gonna want to watch this, because it's like I don't hate it, and I know that like it's a new style of animation. It's a brand new style of animation. It's gonna like take a while to get accustomed to, and it's gonna take a while of
Right.
growing pains. Something that like I got kind of I don't know, that I kind of noticed about it was, especially early on in the episode, it seemed like they were avoiding showing the characters talking. Like there's one point where Roberto's looking at like whatever paper and Meryl's talking and she's behind the paper, and there's like several moments throughout that where it feels so like awkwardly composited that I can't help but feel like they struggled to get the animation of like the lip sync animation to look right or something for that scene, so they just covered it. I can't help but feel that's how it was, because I can't think of other motivations for that.
I mean, it could have just been poor blocking.
Yeah,
Like, you know,
that is also a thing, but it's like just kind of in the back of my mind that like might be a possibility. And then the big thing too is that it feels an awful lot like when I see a lot of newer animators, and I went through this phase as well, of like being so scared to draw ugly frames or ugly like anything, that like quote unquote ugly, where it's like eh, there's not really a whole lot of real expressive energy, which is what animation is before. I don't know. There was like moments where I know when Vash was freaking out about like crying and he was crying and stuff. Part of what made that feel less like a played up silly moment and more like it was trying to be super dramatic while it also felt kind of silly was the fact that like that was as expressive as it got, and it still felt kind of like, no, but we can't make him look ugly. We can't stretch his jaw too far. We can't. Yeah, I guess that's the big thing.
Yeah.
We can't stretch the characters too far because that looks ugly, and it's like, but that's what animation does, and it's more expressive and therefore more powerful. And I feel like a lot of the problems with what makes this style of animation feel very like stiff to me is that kind of idea of like there's not a lot of stretching the characters' limbs and stuff. There's not
Yeah.
a whole lot of it happening.
Yeah. So I'm actually gonna be on the flip side of this. Um because I've watched other stuff from the studio. I've watched Beastars. Beastars had like animal people, and then the thing they did before that was Landed Illustrious, which, those were like girls, well, non-gendered crystal feminized things. So this is like, I think their first time really doing like actual anime people. I thought they did a pretty good job. I've watched plenty of CGI shows. I think this is on the upper end of those. I think aesthetically it looks nice. I think I'm actually going to be a little bit on the other end of like the expression thing, because I actually thought the animation was surprisingly expressive. Mostly because, like, my expectations are set lower. And also, like, anime in general just isn't expressive in the same way that like anime in the 90s used to be. Like the chibi, super deformed, big eyes, big mouth express. Because like you even see like a slight hint of that, like when they're looking at the wanted poster, or like the pamphlet thing about the humanoid Typhoon, and you have spiky haired monster faced Vash, and like honestly he looks in that drawing more like a like extreme expression that you would see Vash have in like the manga or the old anime. And yeah, like that's just something that just anime doesn't do anywhere near as much. And they always go for these more grounded, realistic expressions. And it's fine. I think for what it is and what it is going for, I think visually I'm cool with it. I think it's pretty. It's nice to look at. I'm not gonna be super too harsh on it. Like, this is CGI on a TV budget, and like, if this was 2D animated, like we could have been looking at some really jank 2D animation instead. That just looked even more stiff and more awkward. Like, so I'm gonna give it credit where it is. I've seen a lot of people praise the music. Um, I've watched this episode twice, and the music never really stood out.
There was one point in the car where I heard like I don't know if leitmotif is the right word for it for what I'm thinking of, but like there's a very distinct like set of notes that goes like that feels Trigun, and I can't hum it on demand, unfortunately. But
Right.
it's like that really those low few couple notes are like that. I cannot get it out of my head, or I can't.
Yeah.
Yeah, but there was
Yeah.
something that I noticed that I was like, oh hey, that's that Trigun sound that I immediately associate with Trigun. That's cool that they still have that here.
Yeah, honestly,
And
like the music didn't stand out to me at all, and I don't mean that as like a positive or a negative. Like it didn't stand out in a negative way. It didn't stand out in a particular positive way. It was there. It did its job. It accented the scenes in a way that I didn't even notice, but it clearly wasn't silent, because that would have been distracting. So it like I know there has to be music, and like the second time I watched it and was taking notes, I meant to pay close attention to the music, and then by the time I had finished the episode, I went, "Fuck! I didn't pay attention to the music at all."
which like
So
could be considered a good thing, that like because that's what background music is supposed to do. It's supposed to kind of be there and accent the show and not distract from the
mhm.
show. But sometimes
Right.
background, and that's not to say things where like you do notice the background music is bad. Like it's not bad to have background music that you can notice and that is especially good. But I'm kind of with you where it's like it just blended in so well with the rest of the show that I'm just like,
Mhm.
didn't really, other than that one time where like old Trigun fan brain went, oh my gosh, know those notes.
Speaking
Like,
of old Trigun fan brain, time for the pedantic, angry, bitchy, like nerdy complaint segment of the episode.
why does
Actually, I don't
Roberto?
have
Sorry, go ahead.
like I'm not even gonna be like super negative right out of the gate. I okay, so little change that they made, calling knives Nye, and then I guess he renames himself Millions Knives. Cute. I like it. It's a nice little because I always thought it was kind of weird if they gave this kid the name Knives, and it's like, oh my god, the kid that we named after a stabby object was evil. Whoever could have guessed?
It kind of gives the vibe of like looking up a cool name from a culture or language that's not yours, and then not
Yeah.
really considering what it means. Like in universe, that's what giving knives the name Knives is like, oh hey, that sounds cool, and it's like, hey friend, what but then it's like they named Vash Vash, so it's like it doesn't. So I do kind of like it. It was like, yeah, I had to stop and think like, wait, is that how it always was? But like I
Nope.
genuinely
No,
wasn't
no,
sure.
it's yeah, no, it was just like a nice little change that they made. I think that's actually a positive. Because also, like, Knives has like this whole theme of knives. Like Vash is the gunfighter, and Knives literally turns himself into blades and stuff in the manga.
It's also a
So
backstabber.
yeah. So so like Knives, like already being named Knives always felt a little it felt cheesy in a way that didn't feel right for Trigun. Like Trigun is very cheesy at times, but that felt like the wrong kind of cheesy.
Yeah.
Where having him be named Nye and then him renaming himself Millions Knives, I think is a nice
And he
touch.
does give off very like, I remember from like the anime and the manga, like he gives off very like edgy theater kid vibes. And so like seeing him playing the piano, I was like, that's kind of silly, and but also I can roll with it. Like I think that's kind of
Yeah,
a silly trope or whatever. I know Tales of the Abyss did that where they, but like even that game was like all music based, so I could like, I had to laugh for a
yeah.
second. I thought it was
I
sillier than it was threatening, but that's just me. But
I
yeah.
I honestly just couldn't get over the fact that I was just like, why is his robe covered in blue
I'm
leeches?
really curious.
I have no clue what the fuck that's
I
supposed
feel
to
like that's a
be.
purposeful design thing. Like there's some kind of meaning behind that, and I'm curious to see where they go with it. If it isn't, if like we get to the end of this and there's
Yeah,
no
I'm
reason and
curious
it was
too.
just an aesthetic thing, then I'm gonna be like, why? But for now, I'm gonna give benefit of the doubt.
Yeah, no, because I'm just gonna be like, okay, that was just an ugly aesthetic thing. That wasn't even cool. That was just ugly. Fuck you. Talking about aesthetics, Vash the Stampede has been completely fucking redesigned, and okay, so one of my biggest things when it comes to reinvention is iconography. Like, if you're gonna make a new Batman, you gotta have the pointy ears, you gotta have, like, the bat symbol, you gotta have the cape, you gotta have the utility belt. There are certain things that go into a Batman design, whether it's live action, animated, video games, doesn't fucking matter. Um, and like the same thing goes for like any adaptation. Like an example of this being done terribly, in my opinion, is that live action Power Ranger movie from a few years ago, where it's just like, why is this a team of color coded Guyvers, and where the fuck are the Power Rangers in this image? I I just like because like all the iconography got stripped out. It's just like, okay, yeah, like you have like a color coded team of warriors, and I can kind of see like, oh yeah, like that kind of looks like their power morphers where their belts would be if they had belts in this. And like you gave them like a weird glowy gem in the center of their chest, like fucking Iron Man, instead of like the diamond patterns that they had. And like the helmets don't really look like their dinosaur like equivalent. So I'm like, they didn't look like the fucking Power Rangers. And Vash Stampede here just does not look like Vash Stampede. If you showed me that image, I would probably, like, out of context, I would put together that it's Vash because I'm like, okay, red coat, mechanical arm, blonde hair, round glasses. Okay, that's Vash the Stampede. it's a very weird take on Vash Stampede, but like the silhouette has
It's
completely
his hair
changed.
that gets me.
The iconography is gone.
Like, his hair was
Yeah.
very, like, well, iconic, you know, his hairstyle was, like, that's
Mm-hmm.
Vash's hairstyle. You don't really see that specific thing, like, very much anywhere else, but, like, that's the thing that
Yeah,
gets me because
it's
like,
like,
it
if
being the
you
coat being red, even though I can kinda go, like, Red Sun's coat is more Vash than this one is. Like, Red Sun from Lego Monkey Kid, his
right.
coat is more like Vash's than this current Vash's coat is, and I really don't like the, like, I guess it's a hood, I don't know, I don't like how that looks, but that's just me being like, I just don't like that. But really his hair is
He's
like
very Edward Elric core if you've ever seen
yeah.
Full Metal
I know,
Alchemist.
like, what's funny is that I, like, started watching the episode, and like I said, it'd been a long while since I saw, like, the teaser trailer or thought about it. So when I started the episode and I saw, like, the haircut and everything, I was like, "Hey, wait a minute. How come he has the haircut that I wanted to get, but that I couldn't because my hair apparently isn't the right kind of hair for it? Like, what? That's not fair. Give him his hair back. Don't give him mine. Don't give him my dream haircut. It's illegal."
So yeah, yeah, I'm very iffy on, like, because it feels like, okay, this series right out of the gate just dumps so many what I consider world building
Yeah.
spoilers right out of the gate. It's just like, by the way, like, there were these ships called Seeds. This kid took them out of space, and like these people now live on this planet. Vash has a mechanical arm, so his arm is fake and it's lost technology. Um, like you have the plants,
Yeah,
like
that was
all of this stuff where I'm like, this feels like, guys, like
and like
one at a
Vash
time.
obviously
Like you
has a
could have.
connection to the plants. There's like so much. Knives exist. Yeah. Oh man, I don't know. That was something that I even like had a note about, like the info dumping of, like, you know, comparing it to the original of like the idea of having like, you know, yeah, you want to have like your first episode, you know, should generate interest by like putting forth these are our characters, here's some stuff to love about them, and here's something to entice you to come back next week. And I feel like most of what we got is like, this is this character's archetype, this is this character's archetype, this is this character's archetype, and here's a million mysteries, aren't you curious? And it's like, that's too much. And also like the original
Yeah.
like the original slowly introduced, like you said, like they just kind of gave a bunch of world building spoilers all at once, instead of like
Mm-hmm.
keeping the interest. Like that was one of the things that was like with Adventure Time, the reason it like was as popular as it was because it kept so many world building things like in their sleeve, you know, like they just like, oh, what's behind my back, I
Yeah.
don't know, you know. And it's like, I'm not asking for every show to go that extreme with it. That's actually one of the reasons I don't watch it.
Yeah, no, that would never actually work for
Yeah.
Trigun. But like, you gotta hold like a couple of cards to your chest. And I'm hoping that this series is gonna introduce a bunch of its own unique twists and turns.
Like
And
maybe they're gonna red
like,
herring
its own
us.
unique world building. Yeah, like maybe it's, trying to like, maybe pull the rug out from under like pre-established Trigun fans, which I'm okay with.
I can't
Um
help but feel.
Something I'm not okay with is my tall, dumb
Yeah,
mommy Millie
let's not
being
get to
fucking
that.
absent from the show.
R.I.P.
What the
Millie.
fuck?
Look, hey man, what if Roberto and Wolfwood end up making sandwiches? I might let it go. I'm just
I am just
even though like
I do not know
Roberto,
how
like
I feel. I don't like Roberto.
I
He
don't
feels like
either.
such a generic, like, just
He
like I
also
said, like I don't like that dynamic. And also like having Meryl call like this other dude senpai as opposed to Meryl being the senpai rubs me the wrong way. It's like, why can't the girl be a like
yeah. Why do we have to
why did
devote
we
Meryl? What happened?
why did you throw off the gender balance of the fucking series? Because it was supposed to be like, you had Vash, Wolfwood, Millie, and Meryl, and now it's Vash, Wolfwood, Meryl, and fucking Roberto. Like,
Roberto kind of
why?
comes off to me as like a very less silly, more pessimistic Wolfwood, and like in the sense of like kind of like I don't know if this is the right way to use like the word flanderized, but he feels like a flanderized version of Wolfwood. Like if people watered down Wolfwood too much and took away his silliness, you'd get Roberto, and I don't like that. That's not good. Like Wolfwood was such a
Yeah,
good
I know.
character,
Like as
and this just feels like a worse Wolfwood. Diet Wolfwood.
here's something else I don't like is that they kind of took Meryl from the manga and the anime and Millie from the manga and anime and kind of stapled them together into this new version of Meryl.
Yeah, which like doesn't really
Because
work.
Meryl has like the whole serious thing going on, but also she's kind of like flighty and a little immature, and she's like when Vash compliments her, she's all
Yeah,
like,
that was really
"Ooh,"
weird to me.
and it's just
I was like, okay.
that felt so
That
weird.
didn't even really feel right with the rest of what they showed us. They didn't show her being weak to compliments before then either. It was just or after. It was just that one moment, and I was like, that feels weird to me as a
Like the only thing I can think of to justify this is that like Roberto has been such an obnoxious fucking dickhead to her for so long that having like
she can't take a compliment
someone
properly.
compliment her, she's like, thank God someone acknowledged me as a positive. Ooh woo. I don't know. I like her design. I don't like her being a reporter. I think that's a less interesting job than insurance agent, honestly, because reporter feels kind of played out for some kind of story like this, where it's like, I gotta get my big scoop.
I
It's
know
just
the
like,
manga ended with that, but there's a difference between that being your character's motivation throughout the series versus how the manga was like, oh, we got sick and tired of being insurance people, so we're reporters now, you know?
yeah,
Like I can appreciate like if that's what they were going for, like having a little nod to that fact, but it still
yeah,
is
but
like kind of a worse idea because the insurance thing is like it's like you said, it's so unique and it's so interesting and it made a lot of sense in the context of the original Trigun that it's like this guy is causing us so many problems. Go watch him. You
yeah.
know?
Okay, so and I'm gonna place my bets now. Roberto is a red herring. Roberto is going to be possibly a gung ho gun, or there's something else up with him. He's either going to have a heel turn or he's going to die, and then we're going to get Millie
Please.
for like season 2.
I don't know. Would like
I'm placing my fucking bets on this. Like the season 1 finale, like is going to have like Roberto get fucking killed, and then like the teaser for season 2 is going to be the introduction of Millie.
I don't know because like with this version of Meryl,
Because he's such a boring fucking character.
With this version of Meryl, will like Millie? I'm genuinely thinking of this now because you just had this thought put in my head. Like, would Millie bounce off of this version of Meryl as well as she did the original? Because like you had no nonsense Meryl who like double checked everything and like had doubts and suspected everything she saw, and then you had all of the nonsense Millie who was just like, well, he looked over at me when I called his name, so he must be Vash the Stampede, you know? Which, like, she was right, and that's part of what made Millie so awesome, was that she was right a lot of the time with that.
Yeah, no, like, so much, like, Millie's a fantastic character, and going back and, like, while I was rereading the manga and rewatching the anime, I'm like, oh, I'm really gonna miss Millie, like, I was already sad when I realized she wasn't gonna be in the show, but then, like, actually getting to, like, re-experience this character, I'm like, she's such a good foil to Meryl. But this version of Meryl is like a weird composite of the two. So I'm assuming if we do get Meryl, or if we do get Millie, they're going to kind of harden Meryl a little bit and kind of make her the more experienced one, like by the end of season 1. Roberto. And then we get Millie, and then Millie's like, the kind of flighty, doesn't intern or whatever.
And before Roberto is Millie's dad, and then like Roberto dies, and then Millie shows up, and Roberto dying like hardens Meryl. Because it's like a combination of the two things you said.
Like I said, I'm throwing out my bet for this series because Roberto is too fucking boring of a character for this show.
I'm so done with pessimistic characters who hate the and like that's something that like I've told you that like what I loved so much and why the original Trigun meant so much to me and still does mean a lot to me is the fact that it's like I am a pacifist and I'm so sick and tired of stories that treat that as like stupid and inherently naive, when in reality it's this really
Mm-hmm.
nuanced and complex feelings and philosophies.
Yeah.
And so
So
whereas like in Trigun did a very good job of like, some characters would comment that Vash was very naive, but the story itself didn't feel like, especially the anime, didn't feel like it was trying to say Vash was in the wrong at any point. They were bringing up the point that it's a
mm,
very nuanced and complicated philosophy to have, and there's give and take
there are
to it.
characters who would
Yeah.
argue with him, but and the people who were just outright just be like, "You're fucking stupid," are they were usually
Hmm.
antagonists. And then, like Wolfwood would start arguing with them, but then even Wolfwood would start questioning his own philosophies. So yeah,
And so, like, the
yeah,
idea of
no, like
Roberto just
I'm
being like,
curious.
"Oh, everybody hates everyone," all I'm like, "Go! Why are you a main character? Get out of here! I don't like you. You are the
Yeah,
exact thing
like
I'm tired of seeing everywhere."
I'm curious if they're going to like soften
I would
Wolfwood.
like to see that because I feel like already Vash and Wolfwood were a great, like, kind of El Dorado, Miguel and Tulio style, like, duo, and that's what I loved so much about them. I feel like if they
Hmm.
softened Wolfwood by the time he came in order to balance out Roberto's BS, that, like, that would be heightened even more, and I would actually really love to see that because I love Vash and Wolfwood being kind of silly and how they handle things.
I'm not sure how I would handle the woobification of Wolfwood,
Oh,
but
like
we'll
they can.
see. Because honestly, the woobified version of Wolfwood is Levio the Double Fang,
You got a point.
and
You got a point.
so and honestly, I'm already worried about that. That's something I'm putting off. I'm worried he's gonna pop up in episode 2, and I'm gonna be like, what the fuck? He didn't show up to like the
He's
halfway
not even
point
in
of the
the original
manga.
anime, like, right? He's not, right? Yeah.
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
no, he's not in the original anime at all. So like the fact that like they're already showing him in the trailers, I'm like, don't you
And
fuck
it's
up one
so,
of my
oh,
favorite
this
characters.
whole first episode has me like on this like middle. I'm still like, I was going into this kind of cautious but not pessimistic, and I'm still feeling cautious but not pessimistic because I feel like characterization wise, I feel like they did Vash very well, especially for a first episode. But
Yes,
Meryl, I'm kind of on, and I don't like Roberto. So now it's like,
right.
because of that, I'm like, I have no idea. Is this like, Wolfwood could either be really on point or really off, or like Livio could be really on point or really off. I don't know because they got Vash
Yeah,
really
no,
on
I have
point
no
and
clue what the
Meryl
fuck these
kind of off.
characters are gonna be. I have no clue what these characters are gonna be like moving forward. I will say, I want to end like the fangirl like tangent on a positive note though, by saying I did love that they name dropped the Badlands, the Badlands gang, and when they go to the tavern, in the background shot, at the bar, there is a wanted poster for Brilliant Dynamite's
I
Neon.
saw that and I knew I recognized that character design and that name, and I was like trying to remember, you know.
Yeah, he's the guy who tried to rob the sand steamer early in the
Right, right,
show
right,
and
right,
early in the
right.
manga.
Oh man. I do know that, like, I also are we
Uh
gonna get the Total
okay.
Slaughter song? I would really love to get the Total Slaughter song. I love that thing.
Oh
It
my
was beautiful,
god.
but yeah.
I think that wraps up all of our critiques.
I'm
Are you
good.
good?
Like I said, I really enjoyed this. I had
Okay.
fun. And I'm still like cautious, but not either optimistic or pessimistic. I'm just cautious, but I'm still giving it a shot. The
Yeah.
animation is still kind of something to
I'm
get used to, but overall, I enjoyed
mm,
myself watching it, even with all the like complaints and everything. It wasn't a drudge getting through, you know. I had fun.
yeah. I will say like there are definitely fun elements. I it could be a lot worse. I do feel like if this wasn't Trigun, I probably would have dropped it based on the writing caliber of the first episode, and I would only come back to it if people told me, no, 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 wait, it actually got so much better. Like you got to stick with it. But yeah, that's kind of where I fall on it. So we are going to rate this first episode on the bullet scale of 1 to 6 bullets. Kai, my friend, what do you rate this on a scale of 1 to 6 bullets? 1 bullet being total garbo, 6 bullets being peak
Okay,
Trigun,
good. I'm
baby.
glad you clarified because I was about to ask, is this music rules, like music scoring rules or not? But I think I'd have to score it twice. Like once for on its own as a first episode of a kind of sci-fi anime, I'd probably give it about 3.5. If I'm allowed to do that, split cut a bullet in half.
You could do half bullets. You know what? If that one guy can shoot a bullet out of the sky, you could
All
cut a
right, we're
bullet
gonna
in
go with
half.
like on its own without thinking of the original. I'd probably give it like the 3.5 bullets of like very info dumpy. Probably same thing of like I wouldn't really want to come back because of the animation and the info dumpy, but also there was a lot to like. And then as a longtime Trigun fan, I'm just gonna have to say 3. I'm just gonna have to drop it down because I'm like Meryl
Okay.
kind of rubbed me the wrong way, but also not so much to drop it down to 1.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm just going to give it a single score on this. I am going to give this 3 bullets. I'm going to err on the slightly negative side of neutral. It could be far, far worse. As a Trigun fan, it definitely irked me, but also just as like a fan of like anime in general, I'm like, this is a really sloppy first episode. As you said, this script clearly has like first draft syndrome, and it could have been so much better, but I also acknowledge it could have been so much worse. And if this were just a brand new anime and I had no context for Trigun or whatever, I would probably have dropped this after the first episode and go, this isn't really for me.
Yeah, sounds like we're pretty much in agreement.
Yeah, okay. So yeah, we'll just go ahead and say between us, like three bullets each. And that wraps up this first episode. And we will see you guys next week. Fingers crossed it will be a much better episode, and hopefully the next episode of this podcast will be a much shorter one.
We had a lot to get through, like, because we had to go over, like, initial Trigun knowledge and stuff, but yeah.
Yeah, no, but I'm definitely going to edit this bitch back down in post.